They're always changing things, aren't they? Okay. Well, there it is. It's time to go. Welcome everyone to the April CI Mastermind Live. It is April. It is April. If you can't believe it, believe it. And hopefully your years are all going really well, and hopefully you have some good summer plans too. Both are important. So you are part of CI Mastermind Live. I think most everyone is. Do we have any new folks on the phone? Not really. Oh, Nikki is. Okay, Nikki. Well, guess what? We're going to do our full. Oh, and there's Chris. Chris is there. Hey, Chris. This is a monthly discussion, other CI professionals, with other CI professionals, 5 to 20 people, brief learning on a topic, focus on real-time problem solving. So we're always focused on creating dialogue, and it'll be rotational format. As always, I ask that you respect the peers on the call. If there's information that you shouldn't make public, don't make it public. And help each other solve unique problems. And Mir today, I think, we'll have some interesting experience in the space of developing some new tools that will, I think, will create that kind of discussion, and hopefully we can all help each other that way. This session is recorded and we use it in marketing, so thank you for all being part of that. Got dogs running around a little bit. We like to see your face, so please turn on your camera. And we use chat for conversations. So I always ask, introduce yourself, just what your role is, where you're working in the chat. And I've been asking lately to tell us your biggest win, and we've been putting that into our newsletter as it comes out. Actually, not the newsletter, but one of our communications. We put that in, and it sparks ideas. It gives other people ideas. So I really encourage you to tell us your wins and put that in the chat as well. And then add that in the chat. And I try and answer things as well, so that way we have a couple different modes of conversation. So I will do my introduction, and then I'm going to hand off to Mir. Whoops. One of the things I wanted to remind everyone is that my company, Chalmers Street, has a program called Lunch and Learn. We've been running this for a couple of years now, and I just launched a new group last week, so that's kind of what made me think of it. In Lunch and Learn, we teach the foundations of problem solving. We don't get deep into Six Sigma or lean concepts. The idea is that you build better problem solvers first, and then all those other tools start to make sense, right? So we teach problem statements and 5 whys, SIPOC, cause and effect diagrams, Pareto diagrams, cost-benefit analysis, the things that are really core to creating good problem-solving discussion and mindsets and common language. So like I said, we just launched this with the group this week. They grabbed lunch and joined the session. A couple of them thought lunch was provided. I don't think that was on me, by the way. It's maybe a communication I need to have with the sponsor of these things when they do them, is like, hey, if you're not going to provide lunch, let people know. I kind of thought it was assumed that you bring your lunch, like, but maybe I need to call it a brown bag. And then we do 15, 20 minutes on skill, like developing a specific skill. So we started talking about problem statements in this most recent session. And then I give them an example, and then they go write up their problem statement. And sure enough, something like problem statements sounds simple. I think everyone on this call probably knows this, right? Sounds simple, but they struggle with it, because we did a little exercise, and then I had them give me problems that they're dealing with, and I had the whole group go around and tell me, describe the problem. And 2 things happened that are very common. One was they described the solution that they want and the lack of it as a problem. And that is not how these things work, right? The solution I don't know, there's multiple ways to solve things. The fact that it isn't there doesn't make it a problem. We have to explain the pain. The other thing that they did is went, rather than explaining the problem in like say 3 sentences, they went into endless detail on all the causes and all the things going on around the problem, and endless detail on the pain. And I said that I can't focus on that. Like you have to be tight, and you just the high level problem, because we'll get into causes later. So anyways, this format allows us to do the coaching that takes something that's simple in concept, like writing a problem statement, and get people to really understand it in depth like they need to in order to actually use it out in the operation. So, helps drive engagement, efficiency, practical application. It's flexible. We do it at different times. Typically it's over lunch, but we do it at different times. And then it's always relevant, because we do everything that we do. We pull into the client's real world. They bring real world problems, and we apply the skills that way. We charge $350 a person per month. We try to keep it around 12 people, and we utilize Teams, so it's virtual. It's delivered virtually, and I typically recommend about 4 months to get through the content that I showed here. But we have, again, it's flexible. We have people that say, hey, I just want these 3 pieces, and we design it around that. So that's the program. If you know someone, if you're interested, I would encourage you, give me a call. Let's talk about it. We'd love to be doing more of these. And it is all tied out in our CI Mastermind platform, which I believe I've shown you guys before. Okay, one more thing. Thanks for hanging in there on that. One more thing. Next month, we have Verkia Enzaga-Fusi. She's been a speaker for us before. She is a master black belt. She has a lot of really great experience in voice of the customer, net promoter score, if you're familiar with that. And so she's going to be talking about how she approaches taking information from voice of the customer and turning it into actions and insights. One of the things I like to stress with this is if you're having trouble influencing your internal leadership to invest in something, to change something, right? Tying out the thing that you're trying to fix to customer pain is incredibly powerful. And so Verki is going to help us kind of think through that and how we might achieve that next month. Okay. All right. That's enough from me. I'm going to hand it over to Mir, and he's going to talk to us about some development that he's been doing. Go ahead, Mir. Take it away.
All right, folks. Thank you for joining our session today. My name is Mir, and I've been working with Matt for about 6-7 years now. My background is pretty much in engineering and data sciences. And one of the things that I really enjoy doing on the floor is seeing how we can use technology to leverage and change. Feasible technology not always bring the change that we need. It can get complicated at times too. But the theme is pretty much AI these days, right? Like when Matt said, hey, you're going to talk in April, I was like, great, let's do it. But then I was like, what do I talk about? AI seems to be the theme, and more likely, I was working on something very specific to solve a very specific problem on the floor. And I thought it'd be cool if I can share that with you folks. One of the biggest problems that we have seen, that I have particularly seen in the industry, is you have either experts out there and or you have a labor force that's aging, and how do you transfer that knowledge that's been built up, right? How do you train someone? Or if a new person joins in, like how does the person go around? Usually what I've seen is they are given this stacks of documentation, 40-page binders, 100-page binders that pretty hard to go through, right? And specifically when you're like operating something, you have a question. Am I supposed to flip through 100 pages to find what I need? I mean, it's not exactly as feasible. So we were kind of brainstorming, specifically myself, and I was like, why don't I just have a bot that I can have a conversation with, right? Ask it questions, answer something, and it could be as comprehensive or it could be as short as I need it to be. But then a conversation always helps rather than reading through pages of binders that are that they're not as feasible as talking to someone. And I'm going to share my screen to kind of help you guys visualize what I'm talking about. And then I'll kind of show you the live tool that I'm building. Just give me a second. Right. So I called it AI Technician. I mean, I'm up for names. If you guys have any suggestions, more than welcome. But I'm calling it AI Technician because it's a AI bot. It's a technician bot that you can ask questions to. Um, so pretty much, some of the questions that I even received from you folks were around the same theme of, hey, how do we transfer tribal knowledge? How do we make sure that standard operating procedures actually stick? And usually the feeling that you get from new hires are they're on their own. Like what can be done to kind of mold a tool around these themes? And I also got like I found a pretty much similar theme, as I was saying, across your questions. And reading through manuals, as I was saying, it's a cumbersome task. I'd rather have conversation. Um, so one of the things that I built was a AI bot, and the technology that we have used for it that I'm specifically going with is Claude. And you're gonna ask why Claude versus the ever evolving Gen AIs out there. You have ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, and someone is spinning something else these days. So Claude is probably the best when it comes to comprehensive answers and writing, and more specifically coding. What it has changed for us is we have a developer. Like we can just get to it, share our ideas, and it will develop the tool for us. Then we can deploy. I mean, there's a bit to it, and I'll actually show you how to build it. And you can actually deploy it and get what you need, right? Back in the day, you go to a team of developers, share some ideas, go back and forth, and that whole thing probably takes months to years. You could do it with Claude in a week or even less.
Can we take a quick poll and just a quick raise of hand if you're using Claude this way already? Because I think that'll be interesting. 1, 2. Okay, I see kind of a mix. Okay, all right. So great. I think Mir, yeah, tell people how you're doing this because I think it sounds like there's enough folks on here where you'll be given a little useful education there.
Right. So Claude Code, and it is made by people with no coding background, right? It is made by ex OpenAI researchers, and it is made for people who just want to have conversation and solve real world issues. So how do you actually go by making something like this, right? You can have from an idea to a working URL or a working tool in less than a week. You don't need an IT department. You don't need an enterprise contract, nothing. Just get in there, throw in ideas, and it'll spit a file. And how do you actually do that is, you of course, download their app, come up with an idea, and the file that you get, you would need to kind of integrate that with an API. API is nothing but a link between your tool and the AI agent. You need an API key for that, and then you need a platform that could run the app in the cloud. Again, it is free. The only thing that you'll be paying for is your API key and the Claude prompts fee that's around anywhere between $5 to $50. It's pretty cheap to kind of just test out ideas. So you need a hosting platform, and then you need a code repository, GitHub, and Claude will actually give you the single HTML file. So all you need to do is upload, go live, and you have a tool. And you could come up with a draft in a couple of hours if you had the idea and if you wanted to kind of test things out. So it's kind of crazy. As I was saying, you have a developer in your fingertips. You don't need to go to a company, hey, make this for me. That's no longer true with Claude Code. Any questions before I kind of jump into the next section? All right. Um, let's just see the tool, right? Let's just get into it. I'm gonna share that real quick.
And maybe a little context here, maybe a lot of context actually. So this tool was built because we have a client that has a very machine-driven operation, struggles to keep technicians on staff, and struggles to bring technicians up to speed. Now, we did this, I will call it as more of a research project with them. So we didn't know what we were going to learn as we went, and I think Mir will share some of that. We haven't put it into beneficial use yet, and I think Mir can shed a little light on why that is as well. But we have learned quite a bit through this, and I would just add that's what I believe we should all be doing in the continuous improvement space, is kind of playing with things like Claude Code to see what problems we can solve, and they're not all gonna, I was hoping, frankly, to have a big win that I could talk to you guys about here in April. But I think instead what I have is some useful learning for you all. So I'm sorry that I don't want to steal your thunder, Mir, but I want to make sure you have all that context. This is a specific client that this is built for, so you understand that.
Right, and thanks for that, Matt. So the problem, as I was mentioning, oh my God, am I still sharing my screen? All right.
It's on and off. It seems like it's on and then it flips off.
Just give me a second. Okay, I hope that did it.
I'm seeing a blank screen. It's just a black blank screen.
Technology, right?
Yeah.
Let me share my screen again.
Ah, there you go. You got it now.
Okay.
It's a little small. I don't know if people can zoom in on their side. You can zoom in. There's if you're not aware, in the lower left corner of your screen, there's usually a zoom button, and you can even pan around too if you can't quite see the full thing.
Can you see I kind of zoomed in at mine too?
Yeah, I think you're good. Keep going.
All right. So to Matt's point of view, we are kind of playing around this new tool, Claude Code, and how can we kind of use it on the floor to help people get to the knowledge that they need as quickly as possible. So again, consider this as a layer. You basically just throw in your, for example, VeriSeal 400 is an equipment out that's used to package cards and do a torque seal at the end. And all you do is you kind of throw in your work instructions in here that already exist. And then you can ask it any and all questions that you want to. I have populated a few questions based on the questions that I have received in the survey. One of the things that asked is the machine just stopped and it's showing an error. Like, what do I do? I mean, like, I don't know what to do. The machine just stopped. So one of the things that it's going to kind of pop up with is a list of things that you could try out, list of things that you should watch out for, and the glaring red box of stuff that you absolutely need to do. So the first thing would be, you need a lockout tagout before touching the jam, right? And even before that, it'll explain what E0 or that error is. It's a seal head jam, and these are the things that you need to do. The seal head closes with 200 pounds of force, so your safety comes first. So make sure you kind of comply to all of those things. And it kind of walks you through all of these steps that you need to do for that particular error, and a couple of things that you need to watch out for, right? And the best part kind of comes at the end, where if things don't go your way, there are certain conditions. If it happens, what do you do? And as you can see, some of these things are stop, call maintenance before restarting. And this is not only from an operator perspective, it can also be from a maintenance perspective. The maintenance person can come in and pop in, okay, now what I do, right? And it kind of gives you a good prescriptive answer of what's required and what needs to be done. Couple of more questions that kind of answer that, hey, I'm a new hire. How do I start this machine? Like what should I be careful with? And same approach, it kind of gives you things that you require at the very end, at first. And if you're a new hire, of course, you cannot just operate the machine without knowing it or without having someone like you need some training, right? You cannot just go and touch the machine. So that's what it's going to say, that, hey, new operator cannot run this machine alone. You need someone, and you need to complete a set of trainings. And once you are done with that, these are the typical steps that you take. And the thing about these steps, right? They'll give you the location too, like turn on the machine, turn the main power key to the on position on the right side of the panel. So it's very visual, like how long would it take? It will take approximately 45 seconds to self-start to complete. So it kind of sets an expectation and tells you what button to press where. And it gives you a little message, do not press anything else. Like do not press anything during self-test, just wait to finish as it shows ready or no job loaded. So it gives you good information to follow through and what to expect. And as always, it gives you stuff to never do and the top 4 things that's important, and as well as if something else happens, or what are the typical roles, what are the typical trainings that you need, and who's going to do it. Couple more questions I kind of asked, but the gist is the same, right? Whatever situations you're in, let's say you're an operator, or a machine tech on a third shift that bear to any minimum support that you can get from your engineering staff, you can actually get into this, type in the actual reason, and it'll tell you exactly what to do and who to go to, or what to test out by yourself. So again, going back to the big thing, right? So I'm not looking at manuals, work instructions. It is more of a dialogue or a conversation. And even within this dialogue, I can ask it questions that, hey, for example, train on every error code, what are the big codes that I need to train on, how do I resolve it when it pops up? And even during resolution, it could be a thought partner where you actually ask it questions. I'm not able to find this button, or I'm getting a weird error now. What do I do next? So it's a more of a troubleshooting guy that kind of walks you through the whole thing like you're talking to an actual person. Um, any initial reactions, any questions to this? All right. I'm going to kind of switch.
I have one quick question.
Go ahead.
Did you ever think about entering like your job knowledge and job experience into the client before it feeding all this back to you?
That's a really good question. And one of the things that we have tried out or tested at this point is, especially those experienced operators or machine techs, right? They don't usually follow the manuals. They have their own native knowledge. And the best thing that we have tried is you can record them depending on how much time you have with them. For bigger issues that you see, you take the recording, you throw it over here, and now this becomes, I was kind of joking with Matt the other day. We have a very senior machine tech. His name is um, Walter, and I was like that, hey, it'll be like a Walter AI or like a small version where you can just ask it questions. So gathering, as long as you can gather information in the terms in the form of like video recordings, or if you can have it, any documentation that you can have, you can just throw it in here, and then this becomes, that's a good thing about Claude, right? Claude thinks and responses based on the information you give it, unlike ChatGPT, where it kind of fills in the gaps, which we don't want. We don't want it to kind of think by itself and come up with what could potentially be the solution. No, just read me this instruction that I have in a manual or like a video recording and come up with actual stuff that's been tried and tested. So I hope that answers the question.
Sorry, yeah, Derek, did that answer the question?
Yeah, that's you want to use Claude, but it was just more of like you said this was a new employee because the questions he was typing, he has reiterating that he's a new employee, where you could have just said, okay, who's operating this machine? I'm a new employee. This is my experience level. How often have I worked with this machine? I've only worked with this machine for 30 days. I've only got the initial training. I mean, if you were to put all that in, then when you start experiencing the errors, it would know how to respond, because sometimes we would respond with more information versus less, saying, you've experienced this before, Walter. It's the UO4 rule.
Right.
Yeah, but you get what I'm saying.
Definitely. Chris, did you have a question?
Yeah, my question, Mir, you answered it, but it was just around that hallucination problem, which obviously you get a lot of times with, Gemini, or if you ask any health-related question, they go, I'm not qualified to give health advice, but here's my advice. And so that jumped out to me as far as the safety issue is like, ooh,
Right.
yeah, but it sounds like you've covered that already.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why you should go with Claude. It is, I think so. It's SOC Type 2 certified, and they also have a HIPAA module, which you could kind of use it, which is kind of really cool.
That is
Yep.
Let's okay. Edge, you got your hand up?
Yeah, just looking at this, I mean, I think this is fantastic. There's a lot that's good here. Of course, it also highlights the issues of a particular customer in your case, or even a shop floor that says, well, wait a minute, why don't you have training within industry? Why don't you already have the standard work by the machine? It starts actually punching holes into the way you're operating today, as opposed to I'm going to use this massive database to go and find this stuff, because that's it should be as easy as possible. So I'm wondering too, is that maybe you can actually turn it around to say, hey, write me the standard work for this procedure, and so that's something that's published, or it's on a terminal. Same thing with the training with industry. How would I train an operator to get up to this level of speed? So there's definitely some interesting possibilities with this.
And one of the things, so we have another client, actually I can't remember who it was, but they have a person that they're concerned about when they leave. They're going to take a lot of knowledge with them. What do I do? And we're suggesting let's put a camera and a microphone on them. Like, we have to get their consents, right? There's probably some things we got to do there. But I believe we can start to capture work that should be standardized, but is not, because that person has all that knowledge today. Now, how well will those recording devices? I don't know. That's still stuff we got to kind of play with. But you can see I believe that's where this does need to go. I agree, Edge. It will point out where you have a lot of missing standards today.
Right. And actually, that's a really good segue to this question. There was a change that was made, but nobody updated document. Like, what was the process to kind of get it captured so that everyone kind of knows it? So it will not only catch the gaps in your process, but also kind of give you a formalized structure to, okay, fine, this is the thing that you need to do before you go ahead with making a change on the floor. And who to submit, how to submit, what's your official deadline. So it kind of, the more information you kind of feed it, and you can use it to kind of create SOPs, or you could just dump all the documentation, the videos, the transcription, record the process, throw it in here, and it'll actually give you a set of things that you need to do or need not, or kind of to be careful with as you kind of interact with the machine.
Let's go to some of the responses in the registration, and just get a little conversation going that way. And Nikki, since you're joining new, I'd like to pick on you first, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So our question was, what operational problem do you have today because the knowledge to solve it is buried in documents or a few people's heads? And you had said, which I think is going to ring true for a lot of people, tribal knowledge for assembly and testing of parts. And what I'm interested to know is, what kind of practices do you have today to get people understanding the assembly of parts, or what are some of the things that are maybe nuanced that they don't know that they need to?
I think I understand the question. So
Sorry, yeah, it was
no, you're good. No, it was good. Some of the things that we're doing, we are implementing, we call it MIS. So it's actually instructions instead of being a manual that this would go and read. I love this product. I'm struggling. I do have a question after this. I'm in defense, so I can't use a lot of the AI as it is, right, as you guys are using it. So I am wondering, maybe for my machines upstairs, that'd be great in the shop. But for A&T, where it's proprietary information, I don't know that I could utilize this as much. So side conversation after this. What we're doing is we have something that we have MIS, so we've taken documents as a written and transformed them into, the words are still there, but it's more pictures, videos. Somebody, as you're saying, videotaping someone, will videotape them, having them give their points or tricks of what they're doing to assemble or test to make sure the product is of good quality. So that's how we are starting to use it as training instead of just giving them the manual of here's 1,000 pages to learn along the way, to learn how to assemble that one part you need out of the, I think I have 162 SKUs downstairs for Servo right now. So that's where we're finding our lead times for getting people up and training or up and running of training. Assembly, it's a little bit faster because it's about 30 minutes to assemble a unit, whereas test, it could take up to 6 months to get somebody trained and actually very well certified. We could certify a lot of people, but somebody that can run multiple parts across the machine could take 6 months to a year.
Wow.
So,
And so I don't know. Well, Mir, what do you so I think you have two good challenges in here. One is the security aspect, which we do know a little bit about, and two is the some of what you're talking about is nuance. And I don't know, Mir, does this kind of help us with the nuance, or is that still a challenge in environments where you have to teach kind of a knack? There's a knack to the work, the way I hear Nikki explaining it.
Right. And that's actually the challenge with like more senior kind of maintenance staff and operators. They have their own, and we had someone call it this black magic that I do that no one knows, but like how do we define that, right? And that is where I think so when I don't know who it was, they did not let any person touch the machine if it was not documented or there's not a video next to it, right? So no matter what happens, you're the most senior person, you are doing something, we want to see what you're doing. So that's the only way to kind of capture that. And there's always going to be tricks up someone's sleeve that you'd be amazed. Oh my God, I did the same thing, but you did something different. Now it's working. Tools like this, I think, are going to capture at least 95% of the general issues. There's always going to be a 5% variability into how did he do it? Well, he knows how to do it. So that's always going to be a challenge with AI. Or tools like Claude. In terms
Well,
of
in this tool itself, right, it was built through the OEM's instruction manual. So if it's not in the manual, then it's not there. Now, I think I think maybe Derek, you were saying like, okay, but we should also have information from that technician, that experienced technician, added as well. And so I do think that that's got to be part of whatever solution is known documents plus capturing information from the experts that you have in your organization.
I think one thing that I as you guys were talking that came to me is more of like we call them NCRs, non-conforming materials, right? So how could we get that information from people as you're going through and saying, okay, here's the problem we had, here's how we did to fix it. We've got all the data through there. How could we put that into a manual saying this person has documented this part number, this area, this problem? How do we get that? So you could type it in and find that easily. We've been making them by hand in Excel and other automated programs, but AI might be able to be a very quick one that can go in and see all that.
And as I was saying, what Claude Work did is gave us a developer at a disposal. And you can just play with Claude and kind of see, okay, this is the problem I'm having. What would be a potential solution? It will whip up a whole mock-up with the tool, and you can kind of use it and see how it does for you.
Just not sure if I can use Claude. We have our own dumbed down ChatGPT. So
Okay.
Right. So Mir, what is so we, and I don't want to, let's not give too much away, but our client has a high secure area where they're doing most of this work. And that's been our challenge in deployment is it's high secure. There's no in this environment. And so we've thought about maybe creating a terminal outside of the environment, but I don't know, Mir, do you have any thoughts on how you manage the security and privacy issues that go along with these kind of tools?
Right. So Claude specifically, nothing gets exchanged out of their environment, and they don't make it open source, right? Especially APIs, it's just input and output. Nothing gets, no third party, there's nothing to it. As kind of goes back to their SOC type 2 compliance, especially when it comes to the environment that Matt is talking about, high security, nothing goes inside. There's no Wi-Fi in the manufacturing area because you can't just enter there. In that case, and what we have planning to do was have like a data drop terminal that just sits inside the environment, that could be, depending on what they approve, some majority of the companies these days are like ChatGPT is pretty much approved, or they have their own version of Copilot. Or people are moving towards Claude. I would say definitely people are moving towards Claude. It kind of gets a bit tricky when you kind of get into CUI and ITAR compliances, especially in defense. But if you work with an architect and have it enclosed within the company's boundaries, you still can use it. And companies that are out there are very heavily using Claude, even in a different industry. As long as you kind of confine it within boundaries, you should be good.
I'm interested, how many of you can only use Copilot within your companies? You can't use ChatGPT, you can't use Emily. Yep. And I guess I've done my own research. I'm not convinced, and I think Mir, you've got a good answer for this, but I'm not sure why Copilot is actually safer. I guess it's because, go ahead.
Office 365. It comes with the Office 365 is already inbuilt in the environment. They don't have to do anything. So they're like, oh yeah, we can use Copilot now. That's the only
layer within Copilot with that you can IT and others can actually put in some additional rules about what could be in there, and that it gets it for legal issues. I was recently building a bot in Studio, and literally by saying, if I say instead of saying the laptop was shipped to the wrong area, if I say they shipped the laptop to the wrong area, it would crash on purpose, saying, oh, you're blaming a person, because that's not how those guardrails are set. I will say too, and I push this in the chat, this aspect about actually using cameras and seeing what your key operators are doing. There's a very interesting company called Squint that's doing this work right now. Definitely check out what they're doing. I don't know how far advanced they are. Of course, everybody's trying to sell me something, which is all fine. But yeah, but it does allow you to build manuals and so forth and check into how an operator actually does it, as opposed to looking through an actual manual. So you actually get the real standard work at that point.
I don't want to go too far off tangent, but I do think, and maybe I'll ask this separately, but I suspect that I saw a few of you raise your hands and I said, hey, have you done some Claude code? And I think a group like this could be very valuable to discuss things that we've tried and discuss what's worked and what hasn't, and specifically around some of these AI tools. So maybe Chris, you and me should put our heads together on how we, work that into, because we've got a great group of folks that, thank you, by the way, for regularly attending. And I think talking more about some of the things that we're trying and what's working, what's not, and then the specifics of our own environments, because Nikki, I agree, like what works in one person's environment is not going to work in another person, because it's a different industry and different sets of rules. And this is evolving so fast. I just think, I get so many AI like emails like, hey, come to this event, it's AI, and I'm kind of tired of it. So that's partially why I don't bring it up a lot. At the same time, I listen to this discussion, I go, oh wait, we're on to something important. Chris, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm just as mind blown as you are. A good example was 3 years ago, I paid, I don't know, 15 grand or 12 grand to redo the DataGuard website, which is our cybersecurity unit. And our business leader of our AI division took 2 weeks and he built a much cooler website using Claude code. I'm not specifics on the tool. I would have him come in because he blew my mind. And this is he's not a technical person. He's a smart person. It's the owner's son. He took over this division. He was really passionate about it. And what he did in that period of time, he laughed. He goes, Chris, that would have been faster. I just had to, it was hard to feed it the information. It was me slowing it down. I was like, dude, I go, this is cool. So I think we're all talking about the right things. It's just moving so quickly. I would say we're all going to be dating AI tools, not marrying them, because they will change fundamentally in the next 6 to 12, 18 months.
So I will, in November, I'm going to have someone from BASF come, and he's been strictly on the digital side of what BASF is doing. And we discussed this, Chris, this idea that, well, the role of a developer is changing, and the apps that all of us either want to build or have already developed, let's say, those are going to be different in the future because you've got, to Mir's point, a robotic developer for you. But one of the things that he will bring up is that when they've experimented with this, and I'm just going to steal a little bit of his thunder, and he's not even on the call, but when they've experimented with this at BASF, they've found that it's still not kind of like a, let's call it fire and forget environment. When you build an app, you're still stuck with the maintenance and the support and the improvements of those apps. And he said, so you still don't get away from needing someone to go do this and kind of own it. The ownership piece is still there. It's just the development piece, like Chris is saying, is very different and much faster. I'm going to do one last one because I don't think, Dan, I've ever called on you before. And I feel like, you've been kind of a regular for us. So you talked about new project managers do not get the information they need to perform their jobs. And I'm kind of interested, what kind of information is that's missing? And Mir, maybe you can help think about how Dan might gather that in a different way or utilizing some of the tools you've shown. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, it's not that they don't get it. They get it via fire hose kind of a situation, right? Where they're getting all kinds of stuff thrown at them over the course of 2 days, and they're supposed to retain all that knowledge. But I'm in industry and telecom site development. I've been doing this for over 25 years. So I guess I'm one of the old guys that just has the knowledge. And I look at some of these young kids that are coming up and like, how do we impart that knowledge, which of course isn't written down. There's steps you're supposed to take, but there's just inherent knowledge that no, that's not going to work, kind of thing. When it comes to trying to design a cell site that can actually be built, right? It's like the project managers rely, as they should, on their vendors to do what they're supposed to do, but the vendors aren't doing the job correctly. It's just how do you transfer the experiential knowledge, I guess, other than just talking to people?
So Mir, you go first. I have some thoughts on this one though that I want to go to.
Right. So kind of thinking a bit about this, right? How do you transfer knowledge that is not documented? Recording is one, but then not everyone is kind of comfortable with that. There's also a way to kind of take the typical responses they have had, maybe their Outlook email box or some sort of transcription, working with the vendors. Hey, what's a typical, how has it worked in the past, right? Getting that information, and you don't even have to arrange it or organize it. It's pretty much a raw data dump that you can have in such tools, and you pretty much get the knowledge base updated with whatever information that you have provided. And then you can ask it questions like you're asking any other PM and see what it comes up with. So
I think it still does come down to developing knowledge base, Dan. And in this case, you are the guy, right, that needs to start to think about how you impart knowledge. I also think, though, there's an aspect of what you said, which is they need to ask the vendors better questions. And so I don't, you didn't say that exactly, but I took that away from what you were saying.
Right.
And so what that leads me to is, okay, well, where is the industry knowledge, right? Such that the PM can have a place to go where that industry knowledge is stored, right? That they can start saying, hey, we're doing this install this week. Here's the details of the install. What are some of the questions I should be asking, right? And it bangs it off of that industry knowledge. There's a client that Mir and I are working with right now that we are way out of our depth, to be frank, not not in our skill set, but in the technical aspect of this business. And so we've been doing kind of our own research and building a little bit of our own knowledge base that has been able to, we are able to challenge questions even because of it. But you don't do it without creating that knowledge base and then having a way to interact with it. I think that's really the main concept coming out of this CI session. So
Okay.
Yeah, I would just add, you can't take shortcuts on the basics, and you still have to have a knowledge base. You still have to have a troubleshooting guide or understand what problems you can really have. And once you kind of put those together, then your AI can now respond in a more meaningful way. I know your first question, Mir, was like, okay, I got this error. Okay, but if we would have logged all the types of errors that the machine could read out, then it could have helped us a little bit quicker potentially. And that's the thought. Or it could have predicted, if you're going to do it this way, you're probably going to get this error. I mean, that's where we want to get to, but it's the basis that we need to have.
So maybe, and I'll close after this, but maybe what this is also teaching us all in the kinds of roles that we're in is we need to be better advocates for developing those knowledge bases. I think we've always been in the positions where we're like, hey, why isn't that documented? Hey, why is that data not good? Hey, why isn't something right? And of course, people go, oh, I don't have time. There's no time to clean it up. There's no time to write it down. Well, I think we have a new argument around the value of that knowledge and the ability to access it that might give us a little bit more of a leg up on no, slow down, right? And make sure that part of your day is capturing these things. We've found this now with leader standard work. Like, we are really driving people to capture what they are experiencing during the week as notes in their leader standard work. And guess what? Our next step is that's going to be a knowledge base for our client to go and utilize. So I think we have roles such that we can start to push harder on that knowledge base. I've taken more time. I feel like this is a good topic. Yeah. Did you have one last thing, Derek? Or okay.
No, I would go ahead. Thank you.
I appreciate everybody on here. I'll bring this topic up again, and I might poll some of you to see if there's other technology things that you've been doing that we should bring up in this group. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mir, and have a great. Well, the month is pretty much over, so I'm gonna say have a great May. We'll see you in May.
All right, till then. This was great. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, folks.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Guys.
Take care, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.
Hey, Matt.
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh, are you still recording?
I am. Do you want me to stop? Hold on. Sorry.
Just a quick question for you guys.
I have to figure out how to stop recording.
I mean, it can be a pertinent question.